with blood vessels. Okay, let me share my video. Okay. Now, blood vessels, we have already talked about the importance of circulatory system and why we need circulatory system at the first place, to supply nutrients and oxygen and to remove excretory products, waste products such as carbon dioxide away from the cells, because if we allow them to accumulate, they are poisonous and harmful for the cells. Now, blood vessels are like sort of roads, the communication system, like how, no, Talal, no, we will not do chemistry. Yes, I thought that we should complete it, but I think, you know, we should focus on one subject in a class. So inshallah, we will complete those questions in the next chemistry class. Okay. So blood vessels, you know, like are, oh, some people are unmuted. Okay, let me mute them. Okay. Yeah, there we go. Okay. Okay, so blood vessels are like, you know, the roads, the communication network. How is the blood brought to the cells and back from the cells, back to the heart? And remember, we have discussed this already, that heart is that pump which is generating the pressure. Okay, because after coming from the lungs, from the capillaries of the lungs, the blood has lost all of its pressure. So if there was no heart, the blood would not be able to reach each and every cell of such a big body, which is made up of so many, you know, complex cells and complex tissues. Therefore, the heart's function is to provide that pressure, to make sure that blood cells reach each and every cells of our body, right? Now, I have made this simple, very simple schematic diagram. This is the heart, okay? We all know that this is my right side, so this will be left, and this is my left, so this should be right on the diagram. Okay, and atria are the top chambers, ventricles are the bottom chambers, ventricles are the pumpers, atria are the receptacles, they receive the blood. Right, now the biggest artery that comes out of the left ventricle is, everybody knows, aorta, right? And then as the distance from the heart increases, the diameter or the size of the artery decreases. So like I have this medium-sized artery. Let me zoom it a little. Medium-sized artery, then move farther away from the heart and closer to the cells, a small artery, and this further smalls, it further narrows down so much so that my diagram is not very pretty. I'm just, you know, giving you a rough idea, but you're getting the idea, right? The size, the diameter of each vessel should be decreasing as we're going away from the heart and closer to the cells. Right here, they just before, this is called a capillary bed. Capillary bed. Capillary bed is, capillary bed, yeah, they're decreasing because they have to reach cells, Yusra, they have to reach cells. Cells are microscopic. They are so small. Aorta is such a big. Do you expect this big aorta to be directly supplying minute microscopic cells? And remember, it's not only supplying the cell, they also have to absorb the poisonous, the waste products back from the cells. So for that, you need these minute vessels. And the transition of such a, from such a great size to this minuscule, these microscopic capillaries is gradual. Okay, it has to be gradual. This is the capillary network. Now, the oxygenated blood, I have represented it with the help of red marker. The oxygenated blood is being brought, and here is where the actual exchange of material takes place. Okay, we will talk about the function of each type of vessel later. But then after the exchange has taken place, oxygen and nutrient have diffused out to the cells, and carbon dioxide has diffused back in along with other excretory products such as maybe ammonia, all those, and also carbon dioxide. Now, this is deoxygenated blood, which I have represented with the help of blue marker. Okay, and then capillaries are joining again, joining back again to form the venules. Venules, by the way, are a little bigger than the capillaries compared to capillaries. Okay, then venules join together to form even bigger veins. And so now the diameter of the vessels is increasing back as they are approaching and taking the blood back towards the heart. So much so that eventually you have the biggest vein called the vena cava draining into the right atrium. Okay, another thing, remember, whenever we talk about the functions of vessels, arteries supply. Okay, these are the terms. Arteries supply and arteries supply and veins drain. Veins drain and capillaries exchange substances. Capillaries exchange substances. Oh, venules. Okay. Exchange substances. Okay. Venules are when the capillaries join together to form a relatively bigger vessel. Those are called, so they are smaller than the veins but bigger than capillaries. Venules are like small veins which are formed by capillaries joining together, by different capillaries joining together. Okay, they are smaller than the veins, but they are larger than the capillaries. Okay, they are called venules. So these minute capillaries join together to form venules. Then venules join together. Many venules. I haven't made a complete diagram, but you might have, 3 to 4 venules joining together to form a bigger vein, such as this, right? Same way, just like large artery was narrowing down and branching into medium artery, then further branching into smaller artery, then further branching into arterioles and further into capillaries. Then capillaries join back together into venules, venules joining together to form veins joining together to form the biggest vein, which is vena cava. Okay, so this is the basic layout of the vessels in the body. Okay. The reason why I have chosen foot as the organ is because feet, I think, are the farthest from the heart. Okay, they are farthest from the heart, and also feet is way down. Okay, now let's talk about each vessel one by one. Okay, we have 3 main types of vessels: arteries, capillaries, and veins. Now, first of all, artery. Now, when in biology, you have to make relation between structure and function. What is the function? And then how is the structure helping it carry out that function, right? Now, artery is in direct contact with the heart. It is in direct contact with the heart. And heart is pumping, right? And with each contraction, it is squirting blood out with a lot of force directly into the arteries. So arteries have to withstand big pressures, large pressures. And so it's highly elastic, and muscular walls are enabling it to do just that. Okay. Okay. This is a cross section of the artery that I have made. Okay. You will be expected to draw a diagram, especially of a cross section of an artery. Okay. It's simple, but you have to mention that the most prominent features of an artery's structure is because it is dealing with high pressures of blood, because it is in direct contact with the heart, which is constantly pumping. With each contraction, there is a gush of blood into them. And so they have to withstand that pressure. So first, how does it withstand that pressure? But first, let me make this diagram. So divide the wall into 3 layers, okay, roughly 3 layers. This is the innermost lining. This is the innermost lining. These are flat cells, which are just lining the inner wall. Okay, then I'm going outer. This is an outer layer. Now this layer is the most important. This is made up of muscles. Okay, this is made up of muscles and a lot of elastic fibers. Arterial walls are rich in muscles and elastic fibers. Then there is an outer layer. It's made up of collagen fibers, but that's not mentioned in your book. It's just an outer coat. You can just call it an outer covering or an outer coat. Okay, your book has not mentioned it, and I don't want to introduce new terms to you and confuse you. Just say that this is an outer coat. Okay. Okay, and this is rich in muscles. We will talk about this. Okay, muscles and elastic fibers. They're rich in muscles and elastic fibers. These are the lining cells. They are flat and they are lining the inner wall of the vessel. So remember when we were talking about atheroma and the plaque deposition and, you know, blood clot forming, and I was talking about the lining cells getting damaged. So yeah, I was talking about these lining cells that get damaged when the blood flow is not smooth, but when the blood flow is turbulent. Now, my question for you guys, have you guys done different types of muscles in the body? Which type of muscle is this? Who will answer? You have not done different types of muscles? You guys have not done different types of muscles? No. Oh, okay. Haven't you done voluntary and involuntary muscles? Yes, Saad Amir, biggest artery is aorta. Right. You are right. Okay. Veins to venules to capillaries. Okay, if you are going in the decreasing order, then yes, this order is correct. From veins to venules to capillaries, yes. Okay, 3 layers of an artery. Okay, voluntary and involuntary muscles, you haven't done? Yeah, involuntary or smooth muscles, and then voluntary or skeletal muscles. I remember teaching this to my daughter. So these are smooth muscles. Okay, smooth muscles are found in the walls of the artery, right? Okay, now why do arteries have such a lot of smooth muscles and elastic fiber? This is the most prominent feature in their structure. Now this has to do with the pressure with which the blood is flowing within them. Okay, this is space. You see, this is a blood vessel and I have cut it this way and I'm showing you the cross section this way, showing you the front view. So like if, for example, this is the blood vessel, I have cut it and I'm showing you that cross section. So such a diagram is called a cross section. Okay. Okay. Now, okay, imagine that this is an artery. Okay, this is an artery. Okay. Now, blood is entering into it with a lot of pressure, a lot of pressure. Now, this is elastic, okay? Elastic. So it will balloon up, okay? It will balloon up like this because of the pressure with which the blood is entering it. So it will like sort of balloon out like this. Okay, are you getting my point? So how is it possible for it to balloon up? Because of the elastic fibers. Because of elastic fibers, like, you know, elastic band, they're elastic. You can stretch them and they will recoil. You can stretch them and they will recoil. So you're like stretching these elastic fibers when the blood is entering into these vessels. And then when the heart is relaxing, the elastic fiber, the blood is no longer entering, right? And the blood which is already in there has moved on, right? So the volume of blood like sort of decreases and these walls recoil. They recoil back to their original shape, which was this. Okay, so this is called pulsation, repeated expansion due to elastic fibers and then recoiling. So, you know, when we feel the pulse, it is this expansion and recoiling that we are feeling. When we are feeling the pulsation, remember? Do you remember the sites of pulsations that we discussed in the last biology class? Over the wrist, but provided you relax the muscles. So this is what we are feeling, expansion and recoiling, okay? And it is due to elastic fibers. And also due to muscles. Muscles also are playing a role here, okay? Now, how does this expansion and recoiling help in the maintenance of blood pressure? See, as the arteries are expanding, can you see the volume is increasing a little of the vessel? And we know that pressure is force divided by area. Remember a little of physics here. Now, assuming that the force which is exerted by the blood is kept constant, but the area of the wall against which the blood cells are hitting. Okay, I'm making another diagram. So as you can see here, because of a stretching, the area is greater. The area of the wall is greater, which is available to the red blood cells to hit against. Okay, so considering force of the pressure, blood pressure is constant, area has increased. So as area increased, as you can see, they are inversely proportional. The pressure will decrease. Okay, and opposite happens if there is constriction, or even in recoiling, the area is decreasing. When the area decreases in constriction, because there is inverse proportionality, the pressure should increase, and that is why blood pressure increases when there is vasoconstriction. Vasoconstriction, vaso means vessel, constriction means narrowing or tightening of the vessel, narrowing. Okay, so I'm just telling you how this expansion and recoiling helps in maintaining the blood pressure. So as a person ages, the number of elastic fibers decreases, or these fibers lose their elasticity, so they cannot expand as well. So the area does not expand as well. So when the area does not increase, the pressure does not decrease, meaning the blood pressure increases. That's why as we age, elasticity of our vessels is lost and blood pressure increases. Okay, so that is how expansion and recoiling helps in maintaining the blood pressure within the arteries. Okay, now each pulsation, each expansion is due to one heart contraction, or to be more precise, each expansion is due to one ventricular contraction. Okay, that is why we measure the pulse rate as an indicator of heart rate. Pulse rate is the same as heart rate because each contraction translates into one pulse. Okay, one contraction, one pulse. Okay, so heart rate, measuring a person's pulse rate is a very good way of measuring that person's heart rate. Okay. Okay, is there any other point that I missed? Okay, then there is an instrument which we use to measure the blood pressure in the arteries. Okay, and I will share my screen with you. I'm sharing my screen with you. This is the apparatus which is used to measure the blood pressure in the arteries. And you guys were asking me in the last biology class, what is a sphygmomanometer? That's a very fancy, difficult word. We just call it in common layman term, blood pressure measuring apparatus, simple. But yes, its proper name is sphygmomanometer. Okay, you can see the spelling. It's a really big, complicated word in your book. And the instrument right next to it on the right side is a stethoscope, which is used to hear the heart sounds of a patient, of a person, right? Okay. Then I also want you to look at this diagram. See how they have shown you the arterial wall. Now I have only discussed the arterial wall, so I'm showing you the arterial wall. This is the outer covering. I'm starting from the outermost covering, followed by a thick pink muscular layer. Okay, muscular, smooth muscles plus elastic fibers, followed by the innermost internal lining. Okay, then we will talk about the vessels in a bit. Okay. Okay. Now let's talk about capillaries. So I am following this. I am following this. So from arteries, we move on to capillaries. Now the function of capillaries, again, we will try to relate its structure with its function. okay? Because nothing is without purpose in nature. Capillaries is the site, as I've already mentioned, capillaries is the site where the exchange of material takes place. Exchange, why do we use the word exchange? Is because some things are provided to the cells by the blood, and other things which are poisonous are received from the cells back into the blood, right? And I remember I mentioned that the capillaries are so narrow that only one red blood cell can flow through it at a time. So blood cells have to flow through the capillaries in a single file meaning single line. And so in order to maintain that single file, the blood flow has to be real slow. The blood flow has to be real slow. Let me show that picture to you again. I hope I can find it. Let me see. Okay. Okay, I'll have to go. I really want to show you that picture to to explain you why the blood pressure in the capillaries is so low, because the red blood cells are flowing in a single file. Where did it go? Yeah, here. This. Can you see how the red blood cells are flowing through this capillary in a single file? You will not see two red blood cells at the same point within the capillary. You will not see two red blood cells. Maybe rarely you might see, but usually this is the way. Okay, they have to pass through one by one because the capillary cannot accommodate more than one red blood cell at a time. Now, what is the functional significance of this? This allows for adequate time for the exchange of materials. Meaning, okay, and what is the mode of transport? When I'm talking about exchange of material, what is the mode of transport? How are the substances moving? What is the process called? What is this movement of materials called? Can anybody? Yes? Use the chat window. Yes, Samia, good job. Diffusion. Anya, diffusion. Yes, wonderful. Yes. Hala, why did you say osmosis? Remember the definition of osmosis? Osmosis is the diffusion of water molecules. Here we are talking about a lot of molecules, such as oxygen, carbon dioxide, other excretory waste products. So we will use the term diffusion, not osmosis, because osmosis is a term which is confined to water molecules, right? It's okay, it's okay. That's how we learn, okay, by making mistakes. So that's fine. It's okay to make mistakes. So you understood that, right? So capillary is the site for exchange, and this exchange is diffusion, remember. So oxygen diffuses out of the red blood cells into the surrounding tissues. And I also want you to look at this picture, which is on page 122. It is better explained on this page. Okay, I will keep the camera this way. Page 102. Can you see? These are capillaries and these are the cells. These are the tissue cells that the blood is providing nutrients to. So these arrows are representing oxygen and nutrient molecule diffusing out of the red blood cell into the tissue cells. You understand? The red blood cell itself will not get out of the vessel into the tissue cells, but only the substances such as oxygen and other nutrients such as glucose, okay, or amino acids, or whatever nutrients the blood has brought, right? The red blood cells will remain within the capillary vessel. This is important for you to understand. Now, when there is a bruise or if there is any damage to the capillary wall, then yes, you do have red blood cells getting into the tissue fluid, but which is abnormal, and repair needs to be done in such cases. Okay, that happens in cases of injuries. So carbon dioxide and oxygen and all of this is diffusing out. Now, what are the factors which affect diffusion? Remember we did in grade 6. Remember, we did in grade 6. What? Now this is diffusion going on. Okay, even the excretory products, which will be taken back into the red blood cells, will diffuse into the red blood cells. Remember that. So whatever exchange is happening, most of it is diffusion. Most of it. So tell me the factors which affect diffusion, because that will help us in understanding the structure of capillaries. Hania, thin cell wall. No, tell me the factors affecting diffusion. You guys did, I remember, in grade 6. Heat or temperature. Yeah, heat or temperature is one of the factors affecting diffusion. It is one of the factors. Googling? Okay, Google and tell me. But real quick, because we don't have enough time. Okay. Okay, I'll give you the answer because we don't have time. Remember this. Concentration, yes, Aisha Zahid, surface area, yes, thickness of the wall, yes, Saad Amir, yes, solvent density, okay, concentration of a substance. You guys have Googled very well. Okay, yes, all those factors are directly or indirectly affecting the rate of the diffusion, but these are the 3 main factors I want you to remember. Remember, these are the 3 main factors. Okay, diffusion gradient, meaning the difference in concentration. Okay, surface area, yes, larger the surface area, faster the diffusion, because more surface is available for diffusion to take place. Then the distance the particles have to cover. Now these 2 factors are directly affecting the rate of diffusion, meaning greater the gradient, greater will be the rate of the diffusion. And same is the case with surface area. But with distance, distance is inversely proportional. Meaning greater the distance, less the rate of diffusion. You understand? So here there is diffusion going on and we want to minimize the distance the molecules have to travel. Okay, how can we minimize the distance and also the number of barriers the molecules have to cross in order to make this exchange efficient? So that is made possible by these capillaries made of only single lining of cells. And you can see that there are gaps between them. You can also see gaps between them. These gaps further facilitate the diffusion of molecules. Okay, and also decrease the distance. Just imagine there being a thick muscular wall here, or elastic fibers here. They will be a hindrance in the way of the pathway of molecules, right? And they are not serving any purpose here. We don't need, the pressure is already low. We don't need any pulsatile flow here, right? So that is why capillaries are made up of single layer of cells with gaps in between, okay? And they are real close to the tissue cells, making sure that each and every last cell of the body gets all the oxygen and nutrients it requires and is also cleaned of its waste products, right? If you look at the cross section of capillaries, let me show you the cross section of the capillary again. You will see single cell lining. Okay. You will see single cell lining. Okay. Here, this is from your book. Can you see single layer of cells? And you can see one nucleus in the cross section. You can see one nucleus in the cross section. And because only one red blood cell can be accommodated at a time, you can see that the lumen is only 1 cell wide. Lumen is just as wide as a diameter of, almost as wide as a diameter of a single red blood cell. So that's how small the lumen is, right? And that's it. And then, yes, another thing, their extensive branching increases the surface area, which again is affecting the rate of diffusion. Greater the branching, greater the surface area available for the diffusion of molecules, and therefore more efficient exchange of materials, right? Now we come to the structure of veins. Now we come to the structure of veins. Now what's happening in the veins? First of all, let's talk about, okay, another thing I forgot to mention while discussing arteries is that the blood flow in the arteries is pulsatile. You know, I did not introduce this word pulsatile. Pulsatile meaning that the blood is gushing and then followed by relaxation. The blood is being forced with a lot of pressure followed by a relatively lower pressure. This sort of a flow is called pulsatile flow, which is only found in the arteries. Okay, it is not found in any other vessel, only in the arteries. Okay, and the muscular wall of the artery helps in this pulsatile flow. Okay, now let's move on to veins. Okay, now as you can see that veins are receiving blood from the capillary bed. Veins are receiving blood from the capillary bed, and as I've already shown you that red blood cells are flowing in single file within these capillaries. So you can imagine how slow they are. So you can imagine how the blood has dropped all the way from here where the blood was gushing out of the heart, and how now it's so slow within the capillaries, right? And now this is slow, these sluggish red blood cells are being gathered into venules and then eventually into veins. Also imagine the erect posture of human beings. This diagram here, the erect posture of human beings. Now, if we are talking about the feet are real far away from the heart. Not only that, but if the blood needs to, okay, we will discuss that in a bit, Hala. So if the blood needs to be returned to the heart from the feet, can you see that they have to work against gravity? And also that they are really far away from the pressure generator, which was the heart, right? So they don't have that pressure from the heart, okay, and they are working against gravity. So they should have a structure that will help them in this function. Now because the pressure is not pulsatile, because the pressure is so low entering the veins of the blood which is entering the veins, the walls are thin, okay, meaning they do have some muscles, they do have some smooth muscles, a few of elastic fibers, but less as compared to the arterial walls. Less as compared to the arterial walls. The lumen is wider. Why is the lumen wider? How does that help? See, the blood is already slow. If the lumen was also narrow, that would further increase the resistance and that would further lower down the pressure of the blood. And that would be a problem. Then it would be harder for the blood to be returned to the heart. Therefore, the lumen is wider, okay? Now the walls are thin. They cannot expand and contract and recoil the way our arteries would do. Right, okay. So the valves now, I want you to concentrate on this. This is a diagram that I made myself. As I've already told you, I'm not very good at drawing diagrams. Okay, so now the blood is trying to go against gravity, right? Now, there are chances that it would fall back because of gravity and also because there are no muscles within the walls, okay? And here in this particular example, we're talking about muscles in the legs, okay? We're talking about the muscles in the legs. Those muscles apply pressure as they contract. For example, this is the surrounding muscle, okay? This is the surrounding muscle. When this contracts, it pushes the walls in. When the muscles contract, they bulge. And as they will bulge, they will press on the veins. And if they press on the veins, the blood pressure increases because again, the volume decreases, okay? And as the volume decreases, if the volume of blood is constant, the pressure would increase. That will push the heart upwards. So it will help in the return of blood towards the heart, which is a good thing. That is why exercise is good, because it improves your circulation and it improves the blood return to the heart. Now, when this muscle, which is a little above, the previous muscle that was contracting, if that muscle contracts, now that muscle might force this, again, the blood pressure would increase, the veins will be pressed by the surrounding muscles and the heart, and here the pressure increases, and that increase in pressure might cause the blood to, or push the blood backwards, might push the blood backward. But that backward push of the blood will cause these valves to shut, just like in the heart. Just like in the heart, okay? Same function of the valves in the heart as well as in the veins to prevent the backflow of blood, right? So these valves will shut, preventing the backflow of blood. And so the only way available to this blood is to move forward, upwards towards the heart, okay, against the gravity. So that is why exercise and contraction of muscles is good for increased return of blood to the heart. Now, same happens in the heart as well, if you remember, when the, when the ventricles are contracting, and remember another thing, fluids always flow from a region of high pressure to a region of low pressure. The reason why the blood is being pushed upwards here in this case is because this is a region of higher pressure compared to this region. Here the pressure is relatively low. So the fluid will flow from a region of higher pressure to a region of lower pressure. Okay, again here, because the muscles contract and relax alternatively. When this pair of muscle is contracting, this pair will relax. When this will contract, this will relax. So when the upper pair of muscles is contracting, the lower one will relax, causing the pressure here below the valve to decrease and causing the pressure above the valve to increase. Now, in order to make sure that the blood only is pushed upwards and is not pushed downwards, the valves shut open if the blood tries to fall back. I hope that's making sense. And that's exactly what's happening even in the heart. For example, this is the left ventricle and this is the left atrium. When the ventricles contract, the volume is decreasing and so the pressure is increasing. So there are chances that the blood will be squirted back or is pushed back into the left atrium, but the valves shut, okay? But there are tendons here, the valves shut down, preventing that backflow of blood and make sure that the blood is only pushed out through the aorta. That is the only way available to the blood to be pushed out through the aorta, out of the left ventricle. Okay, so what else? Okay, let me show you now the cross section. Okay, okay, let me show you the cross section of veins. Okay, now I'm sharing my screen. Again, now compare this here. Let's look at this diagram first. Now compare all the three. You can see that the muscular layer, which is the middle layer, is the thickest in the arteries. It is thinner in the veins, but it is there, but it is thinner, okay? The outer coat is there as well. And the inner lining cells is also present in both veins as well as arteries. But in capillaries, you can see only single layer. Can you see, actually in this cross section, they have shown only two cells C-shaped, and they are opposing each other. They are arranged in an opposing position to each other. And you can see the nucleus of one of those cells, right? So they are made up of a single layer of cells, okay? Appreciate that fact, because many times in the exams, they give you this diagram and they ask you to label them and write down their differences and then relate those differences with their function. So you should know that. You should know all of that. See how they have labeled this as a smooth lining is because the type of muscle is smooth muscle. Okay. thin layer of muscles and elastic fibers. Okay, now lumen is that space within the vessel. The lumen is the largest of the vein. Remember, lumen is the largest of the vein, followed by artery, smallest of the capillary, because the capillary is just as big as one single red blood cell, right? The pressure is going to be the largest in the arteries, followed by, I think, capillaries, and then vena cava. Let me show you this other diagram, not a picture that I got. Okay, here I'm trying to show you how when you decrease the size of the lumen by pressing onto the pipe, how the water flows out with gush. So the same happens if the arterial muscles, they contract, and therefore they narrow the lumen of the arteries. The blood pressure increases because the blood flows with greater pressure. Okay, now what else I wanted to show you? Wait. Yeah, this picture. This I got from a book and I found it interesting, so I thought I'll share with you guys. This is how the pressure varies all the way from aorta, arteries, arterioles, capillaries, venules, veins, and ultimately vena cava. So you can see that there is a smooth decrease in pressure all the way from the aorta till vena cava. And this also is showing me that vena cava has the lowest pressure, right? Lower than even the capillaries. That's so amazing. Because, you know, by the time the blood has reached vena cava, it has like gone through the whole body. It has like completed the whole journey. And now it has lost all its pressure. It has lost all its energy. It's about to re-enter the heart to be given pressure again. Right. Okay. Now, okay, let me get back. Okay. Now, as I was talking about the relationship between the muscular contraction and the blood flow in the veins. So, if there is prolonged inactivity, meaning if there is lack of enough muscular contraction, meaning the muscles are not contracting, there is a chance of the blood pooling in the veins. There's a chance of blood pooling in the veins, and that will of course disrupt the smooth flow of blood, because the blood is like sort of stagnant, and so it's not there's no smooth flow of blood. Accumulation of blood is also harmful for the lining of the cells, for the lining of the vessel wall. Okay, the cells which are lining the vessel wall will be disrupted, will be damaged, and that might lead to blood clot formation. Remember, I told you that blood clotting is due to platelet aggregation. Okay, we did a little of this in grade 7, I remember. Blood clot is due to platelet aggregation, and that is activated by damaged cells which are lining the vessel walls. When the lining cells get damaged, platelets get activated. When platelets get activated, a lot of them get aggregated, you know, like a lot of them clump together. They clump together and they form a blood clot. This disease is called thrombosis, because thrombus is actually a scientific, medical term for a blood clot. It is made up of other components as well, but predominantly blood clot, as well as platelets. Okay. So because of lack of inactivity, or because of prolonged, let's say, you know, flat posture, or because of prolonged sitting, or, you know, because of any reason, the muscles are not contracting enough, and therefore pooling of blood, damage to the cells lining the vessel walls, formation of blood clot, which is called thrombus or thrombosis. Okay. Now, sometimes if the circulation somehow revived, but this blood clot has been formed already, and then the circulation revived, then sometimes the pressure of the blood takes this blood clot away along with it, and it keeps flowing with the blood. And if God forbid, and such a mobile thrombus, which is carried away by the flowing blood, is called an embolus. It's called an embolus or embolus, whatever. Okay. And this embolus, if it reaches the pulmonary circulation, and it gets stuck in one of the pulmonary arterioles. Okay, see, notice that I am using the term arteriole, not arteries, because arterioles are narrow enough for the blood clot to get stuck. So there are greater chances of that blood clot getting stuck into narrower vessels, such as arterioles. This is called pulmonary emboli. So basically, pulmonary emboli is a thrombus which got dislodged by the flowing blood and then again got lodged or again got stuck in one of the pulmonary arterioles. And of course, that would lead to blockade of oxygen and nutrient supply to the lung tissue, right? And that is fatal. That might cause death. Pulmonary embolism is fatal. Okay, it's dangerous. So now I have a couple of these questions for you. Tell me, which vessel has the lowest blood pressure? Good job, Saad Amir. That was real quick. Good job. Yes, it's vena cava. Vena cava. Yes, Yusra, it's vena cava. Which vessel has the highest blood pressure? Yes, use the chat window. Good job. What does term portal? Okay, this I have not done with you. Yes, okay, good job. If a blood clot is formed in a vein, so can it block the vein? Yes, it can block the vein if it is, see, it depends upon the size of the thrombus and the size of the vein. Veins usually have wide lumen, so the chances of blood clot getting stuck there are low, okay? The chances of thrombus getting stuck in a narrower vessel are higher, okay? Yes, people who are paralyzed, there is greater risk of thrombosis for them. That is why, you know, they undergo physiotherapy with a lot of massaging and exercising to make sure that the blood circulation is healthy enough. So how long should we sleep to prevent this? You can have your normal sleep. This is like, you know, for days and days, inactivity for days and days due to any reason. Yes. Yes, and so it is also recommended that you keep moving, you know, don't sit in one place for longer periods of time. Get up, take a walk, and you know. Okay. Yes. Okay. Now, let's now talk about naming of the blood vessels. Naming of the blood vessels. This is easy. The blood vessels are named according to the organs that they are supplying, or in case of veins, draining. Remember? Yes. Okay. So let's keep our let's concentrate on this diagram. Let's concentrate on this diagram. So the artery. Okay. Let me. I think I have this in my. Let me share my screen with you. Sharing my screen. Oh. Yeah. Here. This. Okay. So we know the aorta, this, you know, arch-shaped vessel originating from the heart, red color, even if they have not shown you the color, the arch-shaped vessel originating from the heart is aorta, okay? Then you can see the two arteries heading towards the lungs. They are the pulmonary arteries, right? And then another pair of vessels originating from the lungs, that also you can see them blue colored, those are pulmonary veins, okay? Now, the word hepatic is Latin and it means liver, I mean related to liver. Hepatic artery meaning artery bringing oxygenated blood towards the liver, okay? Renal has to do with kidneys. Maybe these words are new for you, but get used to them and you will learn them, no big deal. Okay, renal means kidney, hepatic means liver, pulmonary, we all know lungs, right? And then there's another term, iliac. Iliac has to do with the legs, or the lower part of our body, right? That's the term is iliac. Okay. So we know the arteries and we know the veins, pulmonary artery, aorta. Okay. And then there are two vena cavas. The one which is bringing blood from the lower part of the body will join to form the inferior vena cava. Okay. And the one which is bringing from the arms and the head, meaning the upper part of the body, superior vena cava. Superior just means above. Inferior just means from the lower. That's all. Okay. Now, the term portal vein, see, hepatic portal vein. Now, what does portal mean? See, all the arteries are branching from the aorta, except for dash. Who will tell me? All the arteries are branching from the aorta, except for which artery? Yes. Renal artery. Renal artery is also branching from aorta. Yeah, I will tell you, Atika, what portal means. P-O-R-T-A-L. Yes, Hiba, Samia, good job. Pulmonary artery. And what is pulmonary artery originating from? What is pulmonary artery originating from? If it is not branching from aorta, then it is originating from which part of the heart? Which part of the heart? Don't just say heart. Yeah, you are biology students. You should give me specific answers. Right? Atrium, atria are receptacles. Atria are receptacles, okay? They will receive. Artery is something taking away from the heart. So it should be a ventricle and it's pulmonary. So right ventricle, yes, right ventricle. So pulmonary artery is an artery which is originating from the right ventricle. Most of the rest of all the arteries are directly or indirectly branching from the aorta. Now, all the arteries carry oxygenated blood except for, again, no, all the arteries carry oxygenated, all the arteries, yes, again, Hala, good job. It's pulmonary artery, right? So all the organs receive oxygenated blood through their arteries except for, again, I'm repeating my question. All organs receive oxygenated blood through their arteries except for which organ? Which is such organ, the artery of which is not bringing oxygenated blood towards it? Liver? Yes, Sada Slum. Good job. Lungs. Because remember, pulmonary artery is the artery for the lungs and it is carrying what sort of blood? What sort of blood is in pulmonary artery? Is it oxygenated or is it deoxygenated? It is, yes, Ajwa, it is deoxygenated. And by the way, pulmonary artery is the only artery in the body which is carrying deoxygenated blood. Yes, good job. Yes. Okay. Okay. Then another question. All arteries, oh, sorry, all veins except for dash and dash join with the vena cava, join to the vena cava. All the veins except for dash and dash join to the vena cava. Yes, Sada Slum, good job. One is hepatic portal vein. And what else? Yes, Sada Slum. It is pulmonary vein. Good job. Good job, everybody. Sada Slum, Ajwa, Amina. Yes. Okay, now tell me, what is the pulmonary vein joining to? What is the pulmonary vein joining to if it is not joining to vena cava? Pulmonary vein, that means it is bringing blood to the right atrium? Right atrium, are you sure? Yes, left atrium. left atrium, because it is carrying what sort of blood? Pulmonary vein is carrying what sort of blood? Oxygenated or deoxygenated. So yes, into the left atrium, and from the left atrium to the left ventricle. Yes, good job. What about hepatic portal vein? What is hepatic portal vein? I mean, from where is it originating and what is it joining? Hepatic portal vein, tell me, what organ is the hepatic portal vein originating from and where is it going? Yes, it is originating from the small intestine and it is going to the liver, right? Now I will tell you the meaning of the word portal. Okay, and look at this chat window. I will write down its spelling. Portal means P-O-R-T-A-L. This term is used for a vessel. Whenever you come across this term before a vessel's name, it just means that it is connecting one organ to the other. It does not have direct origin from the aorta or the vena cava. It is not joining the vena cava and it is not branching out of aorta, but it is connecting one organ with the other. Okay, hepatic portal vein is one example. Now why? Why did we have this hepatic portal vein? And what would happen if we did not have this? See, when we are eating, we are introducing a lot of substances into our body, right? Nutrients and many other chemicals, a lot of stuff we introduce into our body when we eat. Now, all that stuff, all those substances after digestion and everything is absorbed through the blood vessels and capillaries in the small intestine, right? Small intestine is the major site of absorption. Now, if all those substances were allowed to pour into the general circulation of the whole body, then the maintenance of the level of different substances such as glucose, amino acids, water, salt, different minerals, they will all be, spiking up right after we take a meal and would be really low if we have not eaten for a long period of time, right? But our body cannot afford to have such spikes and have such low levels. So therefore, before these substances can enter the general circulation of the body, these substances are first taken to the liver. By the way, first of all, you can also think of liver as the policeman or the security of our body. The liver has to check what substances have you poured into your body before they are allowed to enter the blood circulation. Like just when you enter a country, the immigration office checks you before you can enter into their country. So liver does that immigration job, okay? When you are eating, the substances have been digested and everything, the liver checks one last time before you enter the body. Are there any toxic substances? If there are toxic substances, they need to be detoxified first, okay? Is there any alcohol or any other harmful substances, like preservatives in the junk food and, all these color additives, artificial colors? Who takes care of all these harmful substances? The liver does. The liver does, okay? So if you eat a lot of harmful substances, you are increasing the workload of your liver. The liver has to do a lot of scrutiny, a lot of screening, and a lot of detoxification. And it also makes sure that the glucose level does not spike above the normal range, or the amino acid level, or the mineral levels, or the water levels does not rise above their normal ranges, so that the blood concentration, the blood composition is maintained within the normal range, okay? That is why it is important that whatever you are introducing into your blood, into your body by eating, all that substances have to be taken to the liver first, okay? That is the job of hepatic portal vein, okay? So now you can very well imagine what would have happened if we did not have this hepatic portal vein. Okay, that would be a disaster. Right. So I have done the explanation part, and I think we are out of time now. It's exactly 9 o'clock, but okay, let's discuss a few questions because I don't like to finish off the class without a few questions. Did I miss any part? I think I have discussed everything that I wanted to discuss today. Let me just double check. Okay. Okay. Let's move on to the questions. Let's start with these. Page 114. Page 114. Those of you who do not have the book, I can show you. You can keep your eyes on my screen. List 3 ways in which the activity of the heart can be monitored. Yes, page 114. 3 ways in which the activity of the heart can be monitored. Yeah, you read from the back of the book. It's okay, it's okay. Yeah, ECG will tell us about the electrical activity, right? And we can even measure the blood pressure. The blood pressure is one of the parameters we can use, okay, regarding the activity of the heart. And then with the help of a stethoscope, we can listen to the sounds of the valves, okay, if the valves are doing their job properly. And then we can also measure the heart rate by just measuring the pulse rate, right? Okay, you don't need any hi-fi machinery for that. Just go for the pulse and you will get the heart rate, right? Next question. Explain why your pulse rate is the same as your heart rate. I told this to you guys. Any answer in the chat window? Why is your pulse rate the same as your heart rate? No, 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 no. Remember I told you each expansion is due to each contraction. One pulse is due to one contraction of the heart. Exactly. Right. So whatever the pulse rate is, that is the heart rate. Okay, because you cannot have 2 pulses by 1 contraction, right? Or you cannot have 1 pulse by 2 contractions. Okay, right. Because pulse is when you have that expansion and recoiling, and each expansion is due to ventricular contraction squirting the blood out into the arteries. Okay. Question 9.15, look at figure 9.10. How many heartbeats are shown in the ECG trace? Okay, irregular pulse. That is another story. Amina. Amina, you come up with such complicated questions. But that's a good thing. That's a good thing. I like it. Okay, how will we, Hosema, please refrain from commenting on anybody, okay? Please refrain from commenting on any other student. Okay, this is a normal ECG train. Now, how will we calculate the heart rate in this ECG? How will we do that? Now, I told you this spike is ventricular contraction, remember? So knowing this is enough for you. So we know this is one ventricular contraction, this is another ventricular contraction, and this is a third ventricular contraction. So this is one heartbeat. So the distance, the time period between 2 consecutive, 2 spikes next to each other will give you the time taken by 1 heartbeat. 1 heartbeat is from this till Q. From this spike till this spike. So how much is that? This is 0.2, 0.2. So total of 0.4. And then this is whole third. This again is 0.2. So 0.6, 0.6. And then this is, you calculate this out. This is mathematics. What is it? About 0.7 seconds. Yeah, so 0.6 and then more than 5. Yeah, 0.7 here. Okay, half of it will be 0.1, 0.6. this is 0.1, and then so 0.6 plus 0.1 is 0.7 something. Okay, it is 0.7 something. Okay, but you know, you can round out your answer. You don't have to be specific or exact. Okay, let's move on. Work out how long one, oh, sorry, I was working out part B. Part A is how many heartbeats are shown on the ECG trace. That's easy, 3 heartbeats, 3 ventricular contractions, right? 3 ventricular contractions, so 3 heartbeats. Then work out how long one heartbeat lasts. So this we have already done, right? You need to measure between 2 identical points and 2 consecutive beats, for example, between 2 cue points, and then use the scale to convert this to seconds. Okay. Why does your heart need to beat faster when you exercise? Yes, Hiba Siraj, yes. Your muscles need more oxygen because they are working harder. Right, working harder meaning that, you know, they require more oxygen for contraction because they are contraction more often. Okay, remember in your scientific answers, you have to be scientific. Okay, you cannot use words like work harder. You have to explain what you mean by work harder. You will say that there are more contractions, more frequent contractions, and each contraction requires energy. And that energy is obtained by the oxidation of glucose using oxygen and therefore producing carbon dioxide, right? More carbon dioxide being released into the blood will stimulate the brain cells. And then the brain will send signals to the heart and to the respiratory system to breathe faster, so as to increase the supply of oxygen, to make sure that the oxygen supply is faster, right? Right, so you have to explain each and everything, you know, role of oxygen being consumed, carbon dioxide being produced, carbon dioxide in the blood lowering the pH. Why does the carbon dioxide lower the pH, by the way? Who will tell me? Why does carbon dioxide lower the pH of the blood? Yes, Ajwa, good job. Carbonic acid, right. Carbonic acid, let me show this. I have shown this to you guys before, but let me show this again. Carbon dioxide combines with the water in the blood plasma. I can see a few people, you know, unnecessarily commenting on each other. You know, you're wasting your own time. You're distracting yourself. If the other person is behaving this way, you do not respond, okay? H2, this is carbonic acid, H2CO3, and this will then dissociate into, can dissociate this way or it can dissociate this way, depends upon how well it is dissociating. Sorry. Right, okay? So hydrogen ions and therefore low pH, okay? This will stimulate the blood cells. Okay, next question. Where and what is the pacemaker? Yeah, it's a piece of a specialized tissue in the walls of the right atrium that regulate the electrical activity of the heart and therefore regulate the heart rate, the rate at which the heart contracts. Right, according to the body demand, right, and it responds to the changing needs of the body. Okay, if the body needs higher blood circulation, the rate of heart contraction will increase. Okay, describe and explain the action of the atrioventricular valves during ventricular systole. First of all, tell me, what is a systole? Yes, Maruj, good job, I like your answer. The valves are pushed closed by high pressure of blood in the ventricles. Good job, Maruj. But just add to your answer that a high pressure of blood in the ventricles during a ventricular contraction. Okay. What is a systole? Yeah, I am doing 9.19. Yeah, we just discussed it, Hala. Explain what makes your heart beat faster when you exercise. So the brain sends impulses to the pacemaker in exercise when the blood pH lowers down that you gotta beat faster. The muscles need more oxygen and faster. Okay, Hala? Okay. Yes, systole means that stage of the heartbeat when the ventricles contract. Yes, when the heart muscles contract and pump blood from the chambers into the arteries. Good job, Hiba. Yes, when the heart squeezes blood out. Yes, in simplest terms, that's what it is. Okay, page 117, real quick. You were getting bored, right? So it's okay. We can do a few more questions. Okay, which type of blood vessels carry blood away from easy arteries towards the heart? Veins. Why do arteries need strong walls? Come on, come on, come on. Who's going to answer this question? Why do arteries need strong walls? Yes, because in order to maintain that pulsatile flow, in order to maintain the blood pressure with which the blood is entering from the heart. Okay, why do arteries have elastic wall? Why do arteries have elastic wall? To allow for the expansion and recoiling, right? Or to allow for the expansion and recoiling in order to maintain the blood pressure. Otherwise, they would burst, right? Okay, what is the function of capillaries? Function of capillaries. Yes, exchange of substances. Good job, Ajwa. Exchange of substances, and then give a few examples. Oxygen, carbon dioxide, glucose, amino acids, you know, ammonia. Why do veins have a large lumen? Why do veins have a large lumen? 9.24. Yeah, yes, least resistance to blood flow for enhanced blood flow, right? So that more blood can flow at a time, right? Needed because blood pressure in the veins is low, because you know the blood pressure in the veins is low. So that lowering in the blood pressure is compensated by allowing a larger volume of the blood flowing through it at any given point at a time. Okay, how is blood kept moving in the large veins of the legs? Yes, by the contraction of muscles around the vein. Good job, Ajwa. Good job. I like your answers. Yes. Okay. And usually of the leg muscles. We're usually talking about the leg muscles in such cases, because legs are, you know, like the real lower part of our body. Those veins are really working harder against the gravity. What is unusual about the blood supply to the liver? What is unusual? It is, yes. One is this. Okay, look at this diagram. Okay, one is this hepatic artery bringing blood towards it, and the other is this hepatic portal vein. So it has like dual blood supply. It has dual supply. This is for oxygen and nutrients for the liver tissue itself, whereas this hepatic portal vein is the purification blood. I mean, this is the blood that the liver has to purify, has to modify before it is allowed to enter into the rest of the circulation. So, okay, that's that. And I wanted to do end of the chapter questions, but yeah, time is not allowing me. So that's okay, we will do after we have finished the whole chapter. Okay, is there any question? Ask me. Supplied by, okay, blood is, okay. Is there any question? Raise your hand if you have any question. I'll unmute you. Yusra, I can see your hand raised. Do you have a question to ask? Okay. Yes? Yes, Yusra?
Ma'am, my question is that like when we are exercising, does the blood flow of our body increases, right?
Right. So, right.
So the ones like which are having the high blood pressure, some people do have high blood pressure, so already their blood flow is very high. So if they do exercise, does their blood flow even get higher or will it remain constant?
Okay, that's a good question. See, temporarily, yes, the blood flow increases, but in the longer term, the blood vessels relax. Okay, and so when the blood vessels relax, and there are some hormones released when we exercise, right? So they, in the long term, cause relaxation of the blood vessels, and therefore it helps in lowering down the blood pressure. So that is why exercise is good for us. So people who have high blood pressure, they are advised to make their diet healthy, as well as to have a healthy lifestyle, which also includes exercise. Okay, exercise has a lot of benefits. It has a long list of benefits. Okay, yes, Ibrahim. Yes, Ibrahim, I saw your hand raised. Do you want to ask something?
No, my hand is not raised.
Oh, your hand was raised. Okay, maybe by mistake. Okay, okay, Amna, we can do biology tomorrow as well. Only liver has dual blood supply in our whole body. I think, I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I'll check and then let you know tomorrow, inshallah. How many countries have you been to? Why are you asking, Ibrahim? Okay, okay, so then inshallah we will continue biology tomorrow. Okay, I have a question in chemistry. The last chemistry question. Okay, and Nabil, you can ask me in the chemistry class, okay? Because now we are already too late. It's 9:17. Okay? Okay then. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Allah Hafiz, ma'am.
Allah Hafiz. Allah Hafiz.
See your shadows in my room.
Allah
Bye bye.
Hafiz.
Good night. Good night.